Hello everyone, it's April Garwood from Banana Moon Studio. In this video, I'll be showing you how to crochet my Kingfisher Granny Square Blanket. So we're starting with DK weight yarn and a size I or 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. We're going to start with a magic ring. So we'll wrap the yarn around the fingers of our right hand, pull that ring off with the left hand and place our hook through the ring, yarn over and pull up a loop, and we will place 3 double crochet stitches in the ring, chain 2, 3 more double crochet stitches, chain 2, another group of 3 double crochet stitches, chain 2, and 1 more group of double crochet stitches, 3 of them. Then I'm going to take that tail from my magic ring and pull it tight, and that's going to close the center of my granny square. Now to join the end of this first round, I'm going to yarn over and go into the top of my first stitch and work a half double crochet stitch. It looks a lot like that chain 2, but it allows me to start the next round in the center of this corner. So in the pattern, that half double crochet is going to count as a corner chain space. But to begin round 2, we'll chain 2. That does not count as a stitch. Yarn over and place 3 double crochet stitches in this corner space. And then we're going to skip this group of 3 stitches and go right into this next corner chain space and work 3 double crochet stitches, chain 2 for the corner, and work another set of 3 double crochet stitches in the same space. And then we'll repeat that around by skipping the group of 3 double crochets and working the same thing in this corner chain space and then in this one. When I get back to the end of this round, I'll come back to this video and show you what's next. I've finished this corner, so now I'm back to the first chain space I worked into. To finish this round, round 2, I'm going to yarn over and work 3 double crochet stitches back in the first chain space that I worked into. And then just like I did to finish the end of round 1, I'm going to half double crochet in the first stitch of the round. And I'm ready to begin round 3. Again, I'll chain 2, 3 double crochet stitches in this corner space, now here's where it gets a little bit different than what we did in the last round. I will skip this group of 3 double crochet stitches, but now I'm going to go into this space between the groups, so right here, and I will work 3 double crochet stitches here. And then I'll skip this group of stitches and work my corner chain space exactly like I worked them in the previous round. So that's 3 double crochet stitches, a chain 2 and 3 more double crochet stitches. Each corner of this round will be worked in the same way. The only difference with this round being that we are going to go into this space between stitch groups and place 3 double crochet stitches there. So I am going to work until I'm about at the end of this round, and then I will come back to this video and tell you what comes next. Now I'm just about at the end of round 3. Again, I'm going to skip this group of stitches and 3 double crochet stitches back in the first corner space that I worked into. And I'll finish this one with a joining half double crochet, just like I did the rounds before. That is 3 rounds of this granny square. So from here on out, our rounds are going to be very similar to what we've already done. We will work the 3 half double crochet stitches in the first chain space, skip a group of stitches and put 3 double crochets in this space, skip a group of stitches and put 3 double crochets in this space, and our corner space will be the same. 3 double crochet stitches, 2 chains, 3 double crochet stitches. So in every succeeding round of this granny square, it works exactly the same way, but each side of our square as we go on is going to have one additional group of 3 double crochet stitches. Every row gets a little bit bigger, or sorry, every round gets a little bit bigger like that. But it's always going to be skipping the groups of 3 and working groups of 3 into the spaces. So for our Kingfisher Granny Square Blanket, there are several different sizes available. So how many squares you need depends on the size of blanket you're making. The link for the blanket pattern is in the description for this video. It is free, ad supported on my website, or available to purchase as a PDF that's ad free on Etsy and Ravelry. Each square will need to have 5 rounds. So I have 1, 2, and 3. You can kind of count the corner chain spaces. I have 3 rounds so far. I need to make 2 more. I am going to make 4 squares, and then I'm going to come back to this video and show you how to join those squares together. Now we're ready to join some of our granny squares together. So we're going to place a slip knot of our joining color on our hook, and I am going up 1 hook size for the joining. That just helps keep me from doing it too tightly. So with the slip knot on the hook, I want my yarn, my working yarn, to be underneath the join that I'm creating. In this first corner chain space, I'm going to be working with the second chain. I'm going to go through the back loop only of that chain, and then in the chain space on this square, working with this chain, I'm going to go through the back loop only of that chain, and then take my joining yarn over and pull through both of those chains and through the loop on my hook, so a slip stitch. Now as I'm working here, I will frequently look at which loop is on the top. So you can see that the loop from this chain is below the loop from this chain, so that kind of helps me remember which one I went through first. I went through this one first because it's on top. So that means that on this next slip stitch, I want to go through the loop from the top square first. So I'll go through the back loop only of this stitch, and now through the back loop only of this stitch, and I will slip stitch there. and then we swap again. So now we'll go through the bottom square first, and then we'll go through the back loop of the stitch in the top square. This method of joining is called a flat slip stitch join. Okay, so now I'll go through the back loop of the stitch from the top, and then the back loop of the stitch from the bottom. So the thing to remember about this joining method is that every time we work a slip stitch, we alternate top square, then bottom square, and on the next slip stitch, it'll be bottom square and then top square. The back loops only of all of the stitches across, plus one chain from each corner chain space. So I'm going to work this all the way across now. I'm nearly finished joining these two squares. So I'm on this last stitch here. I'll go through the back loop of this one, and then the last stitch here, the back loop of that, and slip stitch. And then the first chain from this chain space, I'll go through the back loop of that. And then the chain from this chain space, I'll go through the back loop of that. Maybe a little hard to get into. I think I split the yarn. Okay, and then I will slip stitch there. If you're putting together a large blanket, these would be the first two squares of row 1 and row 2. And then as you've decided how to place your squares, whichever squares come next in rows 1 and row 2, you're going to place them here. And I'll show you how to just continue your joining. We're going to chain 1 here, and that's going to go across our gap. And then we will, again, this is my joining corner, but you can kind of see how this looks a lot like a chain. So I'm going to go through the back loop of that for my chain, and then through the back loop of the chain from this corner chain space, and I will slip stitch there. Whoops, I missed. And I will slip stitch those, and then I will just continue slip stitching across these two squares just like I did the first two. If you are making a larger blanket than this one, then you would just continue with the squares from rows 1 and 2 until you've joined all the squares from rows 1 and 2. And then you will fasten this off. And once you have finished rows 1 and 2, then you'll start adding the squares for row 3 and just join the first square of row 3, chain 1, join the second square of row 3, and all the way across, and so on with additional rows. Once you have all the rows joined, you're going to turn your piece and you're going to join all of the squares going this way. So again, we're going to start with a slip knot of our joining color. Going to start over here, and we will start with the chain here in this corner chain space and go through the back loop of it, and then in this corner chain space we'll go through the back loop of this chain and slip stitch, and we'll go across and join just as we did before. When I get to this point, we'll come back to this video and I'll show you how to handle this spot. So I'm just about to the space where all of my squares come together in the corner. I need to do one last set of stitches here. and then the chains. This one may be a little difficult to get through as we're working kind of in close quarters here. There we go. Now I have joined all the way across here. At this point, I'll chain one, and I'm just going to let my working yarn and that chain one travel across that perpendicular join. And then I'll go right into joining these two squares together. I've come to the end of joining this side, so I will fasten this one off. And just see how nice and clean this looks in the center. There's no gap, which sometimes happens with when we just join two sets of squares and we don't continue across the whole row or column like this. We wind up with a gap in the center, so this allows us to avoid that. All right, so that's joining. Next, we are going to put an edging on this. Now we're ready to begin the edging for our blanket. I'm going to use the same color for my edging that I did for my joins. So I'm going to place a slip stitch or a slip knot of that yarn on my hook. I'm using a size I hook, which is the same size of hook that I used to make the squares. I'm going to start in one of the corners of the blanket, not just a corner chain space of a square, but in the corner of the blanket. And in the middle of that chain space, I'm going to join with a single crochet stitch and then do another single crochet in the same chain space. And then I am going to single crochet in every stitch and chain space to the next join. So I just did a single crochet in the last stitch along the edge of this square. I'll place one single crochet stitch in the corner chain space of the square, and then what I'm going to do is single crochet into the join. So that is my knot, not my first slip stitch. I want to actually go into the middle of that slip stitch and try to find a way through it. And so when I do that, it kind of makes it look like my slip stitches are just continuing up into the border. Just looks nice. So then I will go into the corner chain space of this square and single crochet. And then single crochet in every stitch until I get to the next blanket corner. When I get to the corner of my blanket, I'm going to place 4 single crochet stitches in that chain space. And I want to place a locking stitch marker in the second corner stitch. That's going to help me make sure that I place things correctly on future rounds. Okay, so now we're going to repeat that on every side of this blanket. We will be in whatever size blanket you're doing. This is what you're going to be repeating all the way around, is a single crochet stitch in every stitch. Every corner chain space from your squares will also have a single crochet stitch. Every time you come to a join, you'll single crochet in the last slip stitch of the join, and then every time you get to a blanket corner, you'll place 4 single crochet stitches in it and place a locking stitch marker in the second one. So that's what we'll do for this first round. When I come all the way back to here, then we'll come back to this video and look at round 2. nearly back to the corner where I began. So I'll go into this one last stitch to single crochet, and then in this corner where we started, we're going to make 2 additional single crochet stitches. Place a locking stitch marker in the very last one, and then slip stitch in the first stitch to join the end of our round 1. So that finishes round 1 of the blanket. For rounds 2 and 3, we're basically working in granny stitch, but we don't have a granny stitch base under that, so I'll show you how we're going to do that. For round 2, we'll chain 2, and that's not going to count as a stitch. We'll put 3 double crochet stitches in the first stitch, which is the same place where we just joined with a slip stitch. And then across this edge, we're going to skip 2 stitches, 1 and 2, and then place our 3 double crochet stitches in the next. And we're going to continue that sequence of stitches until we get to 2 stitches before our next marker. So we'll continue it until we are 2 stitches before this marker. So again, that's skip 2 stitches, 3 double crochet in the next one. Now I have 2 stitches left before my marked stitch. I am going to skip those 2 stitches and place 3 double crochet stitches in this marked stitch. And I can just leave the marker out at this point. And then I will chain 2, which is going to count as my corner chain space, and then I'll place 3 double crochet in the next single crochet stitch, and this is giving me that same granny corner that I'm used to with the squares. And then at this point I'm going to repeat the same thing across this side. I'll skip 2 stitches and place 3 double crochet in this one, and I'm going to be repeating this around every side of my blanket. When I get back to the end of this round, I will show you what we need to do for round 3. So I'm at the very end of round 2 of the edging. I'm going to take this last stitch marker out, skip the 2 stitches before that marked stitch, and place 3 double crochet in the stitch that had the marker in it. And then, just like in a typical granny square, we are going to half double crochet in the first stitch to join the end of this round. And then round 3 is going to be just like a traditional granny square. We're going to chain 2, that won't count as a stitch, 3 double crochet in that corner chain space, and then going across this first edge, we're going to work into the spaces between the groups of double crochet stitches, and we'll place 3 double crochet stitches in each of these spaces across, all the way to and including this one. And then the corner will be 3 double crochet stitches, chain 2, 3 more double crochet stitches. I'll show you that corner when we get there. So we'll just go right into that space and place 3 double crochet stitches there. I'm going to do that all the way across, and then I will come back and show you the corner. I have worked 3 double crochet stitches as a group into each of the spaces across here. Now I'm ready for the corner. I'll place 3 double crochet stitches in the corner chain space, chain 2, and then place 3 more double crochet stitches in the same chain space. And then I'm going to repeat that for the next side and corner and for each side and corner around until I come back to where I started. I'm ready for the end of round 3, so I will place 3 more double crochet stitches in the same chain space where I started. And then I'll half double crochet in the first stitch to join. For round 4, I'm going to chain 1 a little bit loosely, and I'm going to half double crochet in this chain space. Then I'm going to make a picot stitch. I do that by chaining 3, and then I'm going to go under this. This is the front loop of the half double crochet stitch, and then this vertical bar of the half double crochet stitch, and slip stitch, and that leaves this little circular bit on top of the half double crochet stitch. That's the picot. And then I will single crochet in the same chain space, then I will single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, half double crochet in the next stitch, picot, that's chain 3 under the front loop and under the right vertical bar of the half double crochet, and slip stitch, and then I'll single crochet in the next stitch. So take this out. What we have here is, in this group of 3 double crochet stitches, I did a single crochet, chain 1, half double crochet, picot, single crochet, and I'm going to repeat that sequence in every group of 3 double crochet stitches across the edge. When you get to the corner chain space, you're actually going to do the same thing in there that you've been doing in each of these groups of 3 stitches. So you'll single crochet, chain 1, half double crochet, picot, single crochet, and then you're just going to continue and do this edge the same. So that is how you're going to do all of the edges and corners of your border. And then when you get to the very end, you will single crochet in the last chain space and then slip stitch to join, but I'll come back to the video at that point. I'm at the very end of the final round of the edging. I just have 1 group of 3 double crochet stitches left. And then to finish off the round, I'll place 1 more single crochet in this corner chain space and slip stitch in the first stitch to join the end of my round. And that finishes the edging and the blanket. So this size with the 4 squares is just a Lovey size that you might give to a little child that just wants a blanket to hang on to. And it's all finished. When I wash and dry it, some of the puckering will come out of it and it'll get straightened out, and I'll weave in the ends. That finishes it. You can find the free pattern for this blanket in the at the link in the description for this video. And please remember to like, subscribe, and share, and I hope you have a lovely day.